Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just in accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990 as amended, I would like to call this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto to order. Before I start with some opening remarks, just wanted to do some introductions. I'm Stan Komorik. I will be chairing this morning. My fellow panel members on my far left is Natalia Popovic, then Dominic Gully. On my right is Laura Alderson, and further right, Bill Dalton. On my extreme left, or at the far end of the panel, Barbara Bratorzek, our manager and deputy secretary treasurer. So just some opening preliminary remarks. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. I'm just going to adjust this. Our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Our procedure this morning, the Committee of Adjustment hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants may make their submissions in person, others will participate virtually. And with the weather today, it looks like there's more opting for that. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually have registered in advance, will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will be automatically muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your device until you are called to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during their video appearance. Copies of the decision of the committee. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, as Committee of Adjustment and Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Board, or in some very limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustments, so that now only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, specified persons and public bodies, such as the City of Toronto, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Our procedure today, we will go through each item listed on the agenda in order. When you make your submissions, where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if they wish to. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are advised to let the chair know that you wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching or have reached your 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit, as I had mentioned earlier, must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing today. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposal at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if the application has been substantially revised in order to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to the notice of the application are informed of those changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition of the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on the speakers in the hearing room and then those participating electronically through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Before we proceed, our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. And that was January the 23rd. Yeah, I was actually there. Okay. So if I could get a motion to approve those minutes. And Mr. Gully, you and I were the only two there, so. It's
Chair, I'm prepared to move the minutes of the
January 23rd.
January 23rd hearing as written.
Thank you. And I will second, as I will do, only other panel member that was there. All in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Before we proceed, I would like to ask if either panel members or staff have any conflicts or any declarations of interest to declare for the morning agenda. No.
Mr. Chair, I have yes, for number 16.
16, okay. So we will ask you to leave just prior to that item. Before we get to the order of the agenda items, we'd just like to go through deferrals and or files to be closed. Madam Secretary Treasurer, I'm assuming there are no files to be closed.
None today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we do have some deferral requests.
Quite a few again.
Quite a few.
The first one is item.
Is item 1. So dealing with the deferral items in numeric order, the first one is number 1, so that's 457 VALERMO Drive. And the applicant is online, I'm assuming?
Yes.
They don't see him here?
Oh, it's the meeting now.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I believe you have a notice issue and therefore we have to defer?
Yes, please. We have a notice that is different from what was submitted earlier, and that is the reason we are requesting a deferral, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would wish to speak to this item?
No, there's not.
No, there's not? Okay. So given that, committee members?
Chair, I'm going to move that the application for 457 VALERMO Drive be deferred at the request of the applicant in order for the notice to be amended and adjusted in a proper manner.
Thank you, Mr. Gully.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, that item is deferred. Is our next one item 5? So 619 Oxford Street. And just looking at my list. Arshad is the agent, virtual.
Yes, I'll meet him now.
Good morning, Chair, committee members.
Good morning, sir. Also a notice issue with yours?
Yes, we have received updated zoning notice a few days before the hearing, so we need to go back and discuss with staff and come back to the next available opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And there's someone else online, an area resident?
So yeah, they have registered, but they have not appeared online today, though.
Oh, there's no, so you don't have them?
No, they were registered, but they are not here right
Okay, well, if they're not there, we can't talk to them. And there's no one else for this item on this?
No, there is not.
Thank you. So back to the committee for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will move to defer on the basis of the request by the applicant and no other comments or input.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. Seconder.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All in favor? Okay, that item is also deferred. 6, 41 Edgecroft Road. I don't have a question mark on that deferral. Mr. Dome, are you online?
Yes, Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owner.
Good morning. Are we requesting a deferral?
So we do acknowledge there is an error on the public notice for variance number 2. It should reference west instead of east. We understand this typically leads to an automatic deferral to allow proper neighbor notification. However, given the neighbor at 39 Edgecroft Road is already aware of the correct reference, as indicated in their letter on file, we respectfully request that the committee consider amending the wording today rather than deferring the matter, but we fully defer to the committee's judgment on the most appropriate course of action.
Thank you. So your preference would be to go forward?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anyone else online or in person to speak to this one?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Committee members, a little bit of discussion, or? So there is an issue with the notice, but it's not a severe issue. And the agent is requesting that they go forward rather than defer.
Chairman, I believe that it's appropriate to proceed. We have the information. We know that there's an issue with respect to misinformation on the application, probably typographical error, if anything. I believe that we have enough information to proceed.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest it should be deferred because
I was just going to ask
that
you.
impacts a different neighbor. If I get a notice and it says the east, but I'm on the west and now the setback is on the west, I may have an issue with the proposed variance. I don't think it's insignificant.
Okay, I'm just thinking that that neighbor would know. I guess I'm expecting too much in terms of the interpretation of the notice, so.
I believe
Correct on that, Chair.
I believe the agent is saying that the neighbor is aware, but we don't really have evidence of that, I guess, is the other way to put it. Because nothing's been submitted to us in writing or otherwise. So I leave it to the panel members to.
Sorry, was that motion retracted?
Yes. There was no motion.
Well, I thought Dominic had made a motion, but anyway, I'll make a motion to defer this matter because of a notice error.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, so unfortunately, the item is deferred then.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next item to consider for deferral is number 8, 109 Rexdale Boulevard. And Stephen is the agent online.
Yes, good morning. We would like to
Good morning.
defer the application as recommended by planning staff to work with them.
Okay. Anyone else to speak to this item?
No, Mr.
Nope.
Chairman.
Thank you. So back to the committee.
Chair, I'm going to move that the application for 109 Rexdale Boulevard be deferred at the request of the applicant in view of the request for deferral from planning.
So they can process. Okay. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, that item is also deferred. I think we're going to, well, 15, there was a deferral request which was retracted. So I think we'll just deal with that in order of the agenda. So that, I believe that's it, Madam Treasurer, Secretary? Yeah, okay, thank you. So let's go back to the top of the agenda then. So we're back to number 2. And this is 627 Albion Road. This is an application to permit a deficiency in the front yard landscaping. There are 2 variances being requested. Planning is recommending refusal. Councillor has submitted a letter in support. I believe Ravine and Natural Forestry is also recommending refusal. And we have the agent online.
Correct. I will unmute him now.
Let me just get my agenda here.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, this is for my client, and it is very peculiar kind of situation. Their lot just opens on the.
Okay, before you
road.
start, could I just get your full name and address just to confirm for our record, please?
Okay, my name is Manpreet Kohli, and my address is 66 Enmount Drive, Brampton, Ontario.
Okay, and given that you have a couple of refusal recommendations, I believe it would be in your interest to do a full presentation.
Yeah. So we are applying for variances, and the first thing is the landscaping. The zoning bylaw requires 60% of front side yard to have landscaping, and we just have 10%, 10.06% of front yard landscaping, and then there is another bylaw requirement for landscaping which requires 75% of the required landscaping to be soft landscaping, and but on site we just have 9.1% of the required landscaping to be as a soft landscaping. The issue why we have our clients do not meet this requirement. Basically, they have all over they have widened their driveway basically because they have a disabled senior which needs a lots of space to move around when they come out or go into the car, and they have a very high stairs, and so they need much more space for maneuvering. Also, for the particular location of this lot, it abuts right on a very big street. Albion Road is it's a very busy street, and it's a peculiar kind of situation that there is a big blind spot over there. The road little bit turns over there, so they need much bigger driveway to turn around their move around their vehicles within their driveway so that they don't impede the oncoming traffic and to avoid any untoward incident or any accident. So these are the things we have widened our driveway, and we need these minor variances so that the disabled senior finds it easy to move around from the vehicle, as well as there is no untoward incident for the public as well as the inhabitants of that house.
Okay, thank you. I think we understand your situation. I have a question for you pertaining to actually the backyard rather than the front yard. Can you tell me whether you have hard or soft landscaping in the backyard?
Yes, we do have landscaping.
Is it
soft landscape?
Okay, because from Google Earth it looks like it's something other than grass.
Since this study was done, and it was related to the front yard.
Yeah,
we do
I
have the soft
understand that.
landscaping.
I understand that. And I think you have two negative reports, one from Ravine and one from planning, because of the extent of the hard landscaping. And I'm just trying to, in my own mind, justify why I would approve this. And justification for me is that, you know, if you have sufficient soft landscaping in the rear, that might be a mitigating circumstance. But if you're completely paved over in the back as well, then I don't think you're going to get any sympathy from me. So that's why I wanted to determine, what do you have in your backyard?
I don't have the exact percentage of the soft landscaping in the backyard, but we can find it, and whatever the committee decides, the percentage, our client should be ready to provide that soft landscaping to compensate for on the front yard.
Okay, but can you give us an idea? Like, is the majority of the back? I mean, we can't see from the street what you have in the back, but when I look at Google Earth, for some reason, it's all just, it's not green like all your neighbors. So what is the surface in there?
I did not, frankly, I don't want to give the wrong information. I have not dimensioned the rear yard, the exact landscaping. I do not have that exact information right now.
Okay, I'm not asking you for an exact number. I just want to know, what is the majority of the backyard made up of? Is it green? Is it soft landscaping? Is it grass or dirt? Or is it paved?
Some part of it is grass.
Some part. Would you say less than half or more than half?
Well, I don't want to provide wrong information, sir.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Okay, that's fine. So you couldn't with certainty say that the majority of the backyard is actually compliant?
Yeah, I cannot say that.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the applicant?
I just have a comment. I mean, the entire front yard is a driveway. It's no longer a front yard. And I'm just wondering, I mean, you could park 5 or 6 cars on this property. And I understand there's a disabled senior living in the house, but I also see quite a high staircase, and I'm wondering how they can navigate that staircase if they're disabled. I'm just wondering whether this hardscaping in the front could be reduced so that it actually did not go past the staircase, so that, you know, instead of basically the whole front yard being paved, whether we could take it down to maybe 2/3 of the front yard being paved, as opposed to pretty much the full yard. So that's just my comments.
Chair, I had a question of the applicant. I'm wondering, is that impressed concrete or are they pavers?
These are concrete slab, like a slabs.
Is there any permeability for water? The water drains directly onto Albion Road. Does it? Like there's not a lot of permeability
within the holes, through the holes. Like
so are there spaces between the pavers, I believe is the question.
Yes, yes.
So you would say these are permeable pavers? They're not?
In totality, the gaps in between, the water can seep down. It can percolate down through those gaps.
Is it granular between each of the pavers?
No granular in between. It's just like in the arranged, those things pavers are arranged in a way There is a little gap.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I'm assuming there's no one else to speak on this item.
Yes, Mr. No one's online. Or no one's registered.
Okay, we'll take it into committee for some discussion then.
I'm leaning towards refusal because I think it does set a precedent that we don't want to do. So I'm going to make a motion for a refusal based on the coverage. I think it's excessive, and yeah.
I'll second that and also add within the planning memo that has been provided recommending the refusal, they've also indicated that they proceeded on the basis of a waiver, and staff suspect that there are maybe other variances that they may need as well. So given that we do not know everything that we need to know, I will second that refusal motion.
Might be the backyard, actually. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite prepared to support this if I could get a favorable answer on the backyard. But anyway, didn't get that.
We did not.
All in favor of the motion to refuse? Okay, opposed? Okay, the application is refused.
Sorry, was that unanimous or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so item 3, 122 Ashbourne Drive. This is an application to permit the existing dwelling currently under construction. There are 3 variances being requested. We have a previous decision from March of 2023, and forestry is requesting condition 2. And our agent is online as well. Anudu?
Yeah, good morning. Hi, I'm audible.
Good morning. Can we just get your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, madam. Mr. Chair and esteemed panel members. I'm Anandu Shaji from CM Business and Engineers, 537 Danforth Road, representing the client for property 122 Ashbourne Drive.
Thank you, sir. I don't think we need a full presentation, but if you could perhaps give us a brief overview and then for questions.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
So to provide you some background, we had received the building permit on 7th of June 2023, and we started construction. But during construction, the contractor made a mistake. So he increased the height of the first floor from 10 feet to 11 feet. The permitted was 10, but he constructed 11 feet. So because of this we had 3 variances, all were in height. So the total building height, side main wall height, and front and rear main wall height were variances. So the maximum building height exceeded the permissible limit by 0.35 meters, and the main wall heights exceeded the permissible limit by 0.38 meters. So given that the entire structural framing has been completed, rectifying these mistakes would be extremely challenging. And you can also see that the neighboring buildings, properties, say 120 Ashbourne or 24 Ashbourne, 25, 26 Ashbourne, all are 2-story structures with almost a similar height. So our proposed building does not significantly deviate from its surroundings. So in light of these factors, I would request the panel members to please consider these variances as minor.
Okay, thank you. And we note that there are no letters of objection, and there's no one else to speak to this item. To committee?
Chair, I prefer to move this application. All 3 variances relate to height. The exterior main wall is going from 7 to 7.2. The front rear main wall is going from 7 to 7.29, and the maximum permitted height is 9.5, and they're going to 9.79. All minor, all appropriate. Move approval with the urban forestry condition.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Popovic. All in favor? That's unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
So our next item, item 4, 82 Pritchard Avenue. This is an application to construct a laneway suite and a carport. There is only one variance being requested. Planning is requesting a condition of approval in the event that we approve. And I believe that's it. There's a previous decision from December of 2023. And our agent is in person, or is not? I don't see.
He's on virtual. I'll connect him now.
Okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
Chair, committee members. My name is Eduard Bigay, and I'm the applicant for this minor variance.
Okay, and can we just get your address for our records as well?
14B Lissard Park Drive, Toronto.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I don't think we need a presentation here, but perhaps if you could just stand by if there's any questions from panel members. No?
Chair, my only question is, you've read the planning condition of January 22, and you're okay with that?
We're okay, owners and we are okay with that. We agree with the planning, and we're gonna do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
If we could take it into committee then?
Chair, I'm going to move that the application for 82 Pritchard Avenue be approved as subject to planning conditions as stated in the report of January 22, 25.
Thank you, Mr. Gully.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you. Where are we? Okay, item 5 has been deferred, and item 6 has been deferred. So we are on to item 7. 17 Kingsford Crescent. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 8 variances being requested. Planning is requesting a condition of approval. Should we approve, Forestry is requesting conditions 2 and 3.
So, Mr. Chairman, the agent is in
We have
person.
someone in person. Hey, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Can't blame people for not wanting to drive in today.
Not today.
No.
Dan Barry, agent on the application, 35 McDonald Street.
Okay, since you're here and you're actually requesting 8 variances, I wouldn't mind a presentation.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chairman. So our clients are looking to demolish and construct a new 2-story dwelling on this property. And the property being a very pie-shaped lot and a shallow lot was triggering 8 variances, to which I know committee's familiar with, and many of these variances are quite minor in nature, being less than 12 inches. Grab my public notice here. We're looking for an increase in lot coverage of 1.5%. A floor space index of 0.05%. A front yard reduction in the front yard setback to allow for the decorative pillars that are in front of the garage. And I believe on the site plan submitted, you can see the dashed line representing the required front yard setback, and you can see the encroachments that are happening there. But I have a little blow up here with the dark black, very minor encroachment. With regards to a rear yard setback required, difference in opinion on calculating that, but it's 25% of the depth of the lot. And from design, we calculated depth of the lot from the street straight back to the back of the property line, which gave us the 8.23, but zoning is taking...
They're going to take the shortest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
All the variances are quite minor, but whenever I see both a front and a rear yard, I like to see an explanation. So that's really why we're going
Right.
through this, but I think you're getting there with the explanation.
Okay. Side yard setbacks on the north is the same. We're being pinched again because of our skewed subject there. Our height, 6 inches in height. Building depth, 10 inches, 0.25 meters. Again, we're kind of squished on the shallowness of the lot. And a maximum driveway width at 5.2 at the garage door. We're asking for 6.81 to get some extra space. Our clients have trucks.
Okay. And you have no issue with planning's condition?
I have no issue with planning's condition. I'd like to respond to Urban Forestry's
Sure.
recommendation for a deferral. I just like
I don't think they're asking for a deferral. No, they're just asking for a tree protection, a permit to injure or protect a private tree, and they're asking for cash in lieu for planting an additional tree.
Okay. I've misunderstood that under recommendations number 4, where it says Urban Forestry requests deferral.
I don't think they've asked for that.
Okay. Then it's my misunderstanding.
No worries.
So I'll leave that with committee. If you have any
So you're okay then with Urban Forestry's 2 conditions, numbers 2 and 3?
Absolutely. In fact, we've already made application to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm happy to move a motion unless somebody else has any questions. Move a motion for approval of this application because I believe it meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act with community planning's condition taken into consideration and also Urban Forestry's 2 conditions.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
I'll second that.
Kind of a tie. I'll take Dominic. Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, our item 8 has been deferred. So our next item is number 9, which is 210 Cornelius Parkway. This is an application to construct a 1-story rear addition, exterior alterations to the existing building, and a new detached garage. There were 5 variances which have been revised now to 4. 1 has been eliminated. Planning has a condition of approval. And sorry, I gotta find my speakers list now. Marco Vieira. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive, and I'm the agent and designer for this application.
Okay, Marco, I don't think we need a full presentation. I don't know if, or if you're open just to questions from the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. So I turn it over to my panel members if there are any questions to be asked. Give me a chance to find the application. Okay, and it's variance 4 that's been eliminated, so, okay. Stairs. Seeing no questions?
So, Chair, just Marco, just a really fast question. You know the comments with respect to planning regarding elevation and site plan, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we are fine with that. The variance that was actually removed led to this condition of approval because we were proposing a walkout stairs on the side. So we've relocated it to the front. And in prior to doing so, we had our zoning revised to make sure we weren't triggering any other variances. So the condition for planning, we're perfectly happy with.
Thank you.
Okay, so if anyone's doing a motion to approve, it will be as revised. And is anyone ready for a motion? Bill?
Chair, I'm prepared to move approval of the application for 210 Cornelius Parkway. I believe the requests are appropriate in order for this project to proceed and for the specific site. Move approval subject to the planning conditions of January 24th that relate to the site plan and elevations. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you.
Okay, item 10 is 85 Superior Avenue. This is an application to construct a 2-story front addition and a new covered porch. There are 6 variances being requested. There was a wording correction of one of the variances in our added materials. Metrolinx has advisory comments, and planning is requesting a condition of approval should we approve the application. And Deborah, online?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Deborah Mesher.
Good morning.
And my address, hi, and my address is 198 Melita Avenue in Toronto.
Thank you. Okay, again, I don't think we need a full presentation, but if members have any questions, I'd like to open that up, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? If not, motion?
Sure. If there's no comments, questions, I'll move a motion for approval. I believe the application meets the 4 tests, subject to the January 27, 2025 planning comments that tie it to the December 3rd, 2024 drawings as it relates to front yard setback, platform height, pedestrian entry height, and orientation.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. All in favor? Okay, again, unanimous approval.
Chair, I just wanted to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, Dominic.
I apologize, Chair. With respect to Cornelius, I'm not sure if I said the revised application which eliminated the last variance, but I think Secretary Treasurer took that.
We're just assuming you did.
I think you did. I think you did say revised.
Okay. Number 11, or item 11, which is 73 Thompson Avenue. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 7 variances being requested. Planning is requesting a condition of approval in the event that we approve. Transportation also has a condition of approval. There are 2 letters of support, 1 letter of opposition. There's a support petition. Forestry is requesting condition 3, which is cash in lieu. And Mr. Milne Price is at the microphone.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow committee members. My name is Addison Milne Price. I'm a planner at Design Plan Services located at 87 Skyway Avenue, here on behalf of the owner. Just before we get in, just one quick housekeeping thing to point out is that there are actually quite a few letters of support. There's more than 2. There's approximately 20. I've provided a cover letter that sort of goes through each one.
That's a petition in support, which...
That's correct.
Right, which is basically a list of signatures. I didn't say how many there were on there, but they're not individual letters. Right?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I also forgot to mention that we had a previous decision on this item, which was, I believe, a refusal when 9 variances were being requested. Some of them have been modified, and I believe you outlined those modifications.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. My cover letter that I've provided last week went through and explained which variances were revised, which ones were eliminated, and which ones were changed. Just in a quick summary, all of the setback variances have been eliminated. We also reduced the height and we reduced the building length. So essentially, every dimension of the house, be it length, height, side yard setback, has been reduced. One thing that has not changed from the previous application is that all city departments have not issued any sort of objection. They're all in support, and we have no issues with any of the recommendations. Obviously, what is quite different from the previous application, in addition to the changes that I've mentioned, is the significant amount of support. There is 1 letter of objection from 79 Thompson, and there is a half support, half objection from the Thompson Orchard Community Association, which I do think is the best that we were able to get from them. They do appreciate all of the effort the owner put in trying to revise the application, and I do also appreciate that they recognize that. I'll just quickly go through the variances. I know I've been speaking for a while. The timer only just started, so I'm going to just go quite quickly.
We didn't think you were going to do a full presentation, so we didn't start the timer.
Fair enough, fair enough. I wasn't requested
It's
to,
okay.
but I figured just since there's a letter of objection, I
Sure.
might as well go through. So variance 1 still pertains to lot coverage. We're now proposing only 34.7%, which is just under 2% of what is permitted as of right, as well as just about 8 square meters above what is permitted as of right. I'll point out that this lot coverage includes the existing detached structure in the rear, and is also quite similar to the lot coverages that have been approved in the neighborhood in the past. And it's a similar story for the FSI that we're now proposing. It's now been reduced to 0.64. And this represents a building envelope that is now entirely permitted by the zoning bylaw. As I mentioned, there's no setback variances, there's no building length variances. Really, the only change to the building envelope is the height, and we'll get to that in a moment. But this FSI is quite similar to some approvals that we've seen along Thompson Ave, such as 64 Thompson Ave, approved with an FSI of 0.66, 29 Thompson Ave, approved with an FSI of 0.68, 74 Meadowvale Ave, approved with an FSI of 0.69. Now, just with respect to the two variances for height, there's a variance for overall height for 1 foot, 0.3 meters, and a variance for main wall height. I just want to point out that the variance for main wall height really arises from the architectural design of the building. If you look on the side and front main elevations, you can see that the actual distance from the ground to the eaves is approximately 6 meters, in line with what the zoning bylaw here intends. The additional height is measured to the top of the gable roof. And gable roofs are quite common in this neighborhood. I suspect that a large amount of the main wall height variances in this neighborhood are from the exact same thing that we're trying to do here, to have a gabled sort of roof that mimics the style that you'll find throughout Thompson Ave. There's also a slight difference between established grade and finished grade at the front of the house. It's a slight difference, about 10 centimeters, but I think this does bear mentioning because the variance we're seeking is about 10 centimeters as well. With respect to the last three variances, I'll point out with regard to driveway width and parking space minimum size, transportation staff has no issues with what we're proposing. With regard to the driveway width in particular, our landscaping requirements are all being met. Really what we're trying to do is match the existing width of the driveway on the property. And because this existing driveway is slightly larger than the parking space inside the garage, we have to ask for a variance. But it is going to match the existing driveway. And lastly, with respect to variance 6, the soft landscaping, we have increased this from what we proposed at the last application, but I do want to point out that it is an existing non-compliant situation in the rear. We're proposing to add some planters in the rear yard that's going to increase this existing rear yard soft landscaping, but it is quite in line with what you'll see with other properties that feature a pool. That concludes my presentation.
thank
I'm
you.
happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Mr. Dominic?
Chair, I have comment and questions with respect to this application. Indeed, in my view, this is a new application altogether. Everything that the agent has explained with respect to building within the envelope is certainly there. With respect to height, variants 3 and 4 are very nominal and indeed are related to architectural character and so on. So there's really no impact with respect to that. My only question relates to the transportation, a request to design the driveway in accordance to their requirements and approval. I just wanted to know, are you okay with that condition being placed? I know you spoke about the driveway. You have to tap back to some original lines, but are you okay with that condition being imposed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I'm okay with that condition. No issues from us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, I have just a couple of of questions. First of all, do you have letters of support from number 75 and 71 on either side of 73?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have letters of support. However, the homeowner was able to speak with these homeowners, and they stated they didn't want to support or oppose the application.
Okay, so they didn't sign your petition?
That's correct. They did not sign a petition, and they did not issue a letter of
Neither
objection.
side. Okay. And secondly, one of the architectural significant things of elements about this neighborhood, Thompson Orchards, is the use of Humberstone in the building. I'm just wondering, I just don't want to see that end up in a rubble pile. If that could be given to the community to use, or if they can use it in landscaping or whatever. But I just wanted to. Yeah, it is one of the architectural elements that is frequently used in Thompson Orchard, so I'm just wondering if it can be utilized in some way, or if they can't use it, to pass it on to a neighbor who can use it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can certainly take those comments back to the owner and request that they do that. I'm not sure if the committee can attach any conditions for that.
It's just a suggestion.
But I will certainly take that suggestion back, and I think it is a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll take it into committee. Thank you, Mr. Milprice. Anyone ready for a motion?
Chair,
or any discussion?
Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. I think this application for 73 Thompson Avenue is a new application with substantive changes, changes that really address issues that were raised the last time around. I believe the variances that are being requested today are nominal individually and collectively, and I'm going to move approval subject to the planning condition of January 24th and development engineering condition of January 24th as well with respect to the driveway design.
Forestry.
And forestry conditions, indeed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay, our next item, 44, the Kingsway. This is an application to construct 2 third-story dormers on the front of an existing dwelling. There is 1 variance, which is for GFA, and planning has a condition of approval. And the applicant is online. Craig?
Yes, good morning.
Good
My
morning,
name is
sir.
Craig Ritz, Sierra Design Studio, agent for the owners. We're located at 53 Chauncey Avenue. We're actually going to request a deferral on this application today, which may seem odd, given the very small FSI variance of 25 square feet for these 2 new small dormers that were proposed. But the owners are actually planning to demolish the existing detached garage in the rear yard and replace with a new ancillary structure. Initially, that ancillary structure was just going to be a pool cabana. Now the owners wish to incorporate parking within the ancillary structure. As a proposed new detached garage, the area will be required to be included in the overall FSI as per exception 35, which will obviously change the FSI variance being requested. So this is kind of a last minute decision by my clients, and we would like to defer and then resubmit this application so that both the new proposed dormers and the detached garage would be included in the FSI being requested.
So that you don't wind up having to do 2 committee hearings.
Well, that's right. Yeah, initially, again, this was going to be just a cabana. It would have been as of right, wouldn't have fallen
no, understood.
under the,
Understood.
yeah.
Okay, I'm assuming there's no worries. I'm assuming there's no other speakers on this issue, on this item.
No, there's
no. Okay, so bring it into committee then.
Sure. With that, I'll move a motion given that the applicant wants to make some tweaks to their redevelopment. So let's give them the time to do so.
Okay, motion to defer. Thank you, Mr.
I'll second
Dalton.
that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, this item is also deferred then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone want a break or should we keep going? Okay, let's keep going then. We're on a roll. Okay. Lucky 13. So this is number 5, BRENDWIN Road. And this is an application to maintain the existing parking space in the front yard. There is one variance being requested. Ravina Natural Forestry is actually okay with it. So there are no other comments. And who's our speaker? Mr. Chan?
Yes, my name is Charles Chenwai. I'm the agent for the application, and I'm at 20 Smithwood Drive.
Thank you, sir.
Etobicoke.
I don't think we need a full presentation here, but if you could just stand by for questions, if you're okay with that.
Yes, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
the entry to this home is actually not on BRENDWIN. It's on the adjacent street. Is that correct?
Correct. So let me give you a brief description of the structure. So the owner had a legal duplex on this building, and then we applied to convert the garage. So if you see the window that is on the main level with all the plywood there, that is the third unit that we proposed with a building permit that has nothing to do with this application. But the entrance for that unit is from BRENDWIN, but the other 2 units, it's from the opposite side of the corner.
I can see the 3
So
air,
there's one
air
entrance on
conditioning
BRENDWIN
units
and there's
on
one-
that side, yes, okay. So you have parking basically. Yeah, I mean, there's a
Well,
lot
right
of,
now-
there's a lot of surface parking on BRENDWIN, like it's actually
street parking.
It's pretty generous. There's room, I think, for at least three cars, possibly 4 cars. Are we not missing some soft landscaping?
At the moment, there is a lot of parking available there. It's asphalt, and what we're proposing is to, if you go to our site plan page.
No, I was just wondering, actually, I see that the driveway is actually, I think, attached to number 7, BRENDWIN. So there's another, it looks like it's part of your driveway, but it's technically belongs, I think, to number
Correct.
7.
So between our building and the property line, we got about 4 feet of
I see that.
space there, and
So it's
and
not
then
really,
what we're
it's
doing
not
is-
really parking for 4 cars. It's really parking for maybe 2.
Correct. So what we're proposing is just, keep 2 parking spaces in front instead of allowing all of that asphalt. And we're proposing some soft landscaping to bring that back to the property, so it's not such a hardscape as it is right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, clear as mud. No, that was helpful, actually. Any other questions? Okay. Let's bring it into committee then. Anyone ready for a motion?
Sure, I'll move a motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and is minor, and there are no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
I'll second that motion.
Thanks, Laura. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, item 14, 48 GARDENVALE Road. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling, an attached garage, and a cabana. There are 5 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting condition 2. Planning has a condition of approval in the event that we should approve. And our agent is online, Alexander Overholt.
Good morning,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Chair and fellow committee members. I'm Alexander Overholt. I'm calling from Contempo Studio. We're located at 1140 the Queensway, Etobicoke, Ontario. Thank you for taking the time today to allow me to speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't think we need a full presentation here.
I do believe that variances are minor. However, I would love the opportunity to use the presentation to speak towards the condition that the planning department has imposed within their staff report, if you don't mind.
Sure. I was going to say just do a brief overview, but that's fine.
Oh, sure. I don't mind. We are pursuing 5 different variances today. A FSI variance where the allowed limit is 0.45 and we are pursuing an FSI value of 0.67. We're looking for a lot coverage variance. The allowed is 33% and we are pursuing a coverage of 38.6%. We have an exterior stairs width variance. The allowed is 2 meters and we are pursuing 3.71 meters. We also have a main wall height variance. Their allowed is 7 meters in height and we're pursuing a variance of 7.18 meters, just 0.18 meters above. And fifth and the last variance is it's an odd variance. It's the main height or the allowed door height of the auxiliary structure in the rear of the property. I believe this is a technical variance due to the established grade. As you can see right here, our door height's actually only 8 feet in height, and we're only asking for relief of 0.09 meters. 2.59 meters is our request, and the allowed is 2.5 meters. Within this document that you are sharing, and thank you for sharing this, there are many slides that show examples of previous Committee of Adjustment applications within the local area that have similar values that correlate with our proposed variances. Now, if you don't mind, I would love to bring attention to the planning report.
Yeah.
The planning department, who we have worked very closely with in the last couple months, has indicated that they would like to remove the windows and dormers along the front elevation. We have discussed with them that these dormers are purely aesthetic and are just part of the architectural design, but they are under the impression that these dormers may bring forth the use of the attic space as habitable space. If you can kindly look at page number 3 in the attached presentation, I would love to show you a diagram how this isn't feasible. Right there, yes, perfect, thank you. So if you could just zoom in on that document right there, that diagram, our height within our attic space is only 5'10". So even if there was to be use, it's not feasible. These dormers are decorative and our roof structure is to be composed of roof trusses. We have tried to communicate this with the planning department, but I believe there may have been some sort of miscommunication. Aside from asking relief from the 5 variances we are proposing, I'm also asking for relief from this condition as well. The dormers are purely aesthetic. It is something the homeowner very much wants to have within their architectural style, and we believe it is a just ask to have. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to follow up on that. So you believe planning's opinion is that it's not to become habitable as opposed to it presenting as a 3rd story from the street?
Yes, and we don't have a main wall. We don't have a building height variance either. Our roof profile, if you look at the first page of the document, is actually quite shallow. So these dormers, again, just purely aesthetic. We're just trying to, make it look nice, really.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're concerned about, as I say, the space becoming habitable. They're concerned about the house presenting as a 3-story house, where they're saying the predominant characters
in the condition. They use the verbiage as it relates to floor space index. So I do believe that they believe that the space is to be used for habitable purposes, which is never the case. We have skylights proposed to be used.
Okay, let me
throughout the roof as
rephrase my
well.
question. Do
Sure.
you feel that by adding the dormers, that would make the house present as a 3-story dwelling?
I feel like if our roof profile was much taller and larger, which presented a larger massing, which incurred a height variance for the structure itself, I could see the validity in that perspective. I could. But because our building height is below the allowed height and our roof profile is quite slim, I struggle to see their perspective.
Okay. Questions from panel members?
Well, on that, did you have any discussions with planning?
We have had multiple discussions with planning, and we even brought this to their attention as well. And when we left our discussions with planning, they said, "Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and effort. We'll discuss this." And that was the last of our correspondence with them. And then the staff report was issued a few days later. There was no more opportunity to go back and forth regarding this discussion. But I do appreciate the efforts that we have made and they have made in trying to resolve this condition.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, thank you.
2 doors down from you at 52, number 52, I'm just wondering if you know what the height of that roof is compared to the one you were proposing. Do you know how that compares? It is a
unfortunately do not have.
two-story, but I'm just wondering if you happen to know how tall that is
I do not
by
know the
comparison.
value, unfortunately. Unfortunately, no, I'm sorry, Chairman, I do not know that value.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Thank you.
I'm assuming there's no one else to speak to this issue.
That is correct.
Okay, and if there are no more questions, we'll take it into committee for some discussion then. Any other questions?
Chair, I just wanted to indicate that really the variance with respect to height is almost imperceptible at 0.18. And visually, maybe at across the street, you may view this as a 3-story, but I don't. I don't believe that it presents itself as a 3-story home. And there is another example on the street where that same type of roof has been approved without the dormers. And the massing is no difference and the height is no difference. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has an issue with the height variance. I think it's a question of, from planning's perspective, the dormers. And I think, you know, there's other ways to achieve that, that look. It doesn't have to be full-on windows. They could have, there are other architectural features that could produce that same effect. So, yeah. Yeah. But that's why, you know, fair question, Bill, in terms of, you know, how much did they process this with planning and what were the other options? Were they even considered? Yeah.
Sure, I did have another question of the applicant. I
Sure.
can't recall whether this area has a home, a residence association. I thought there was a, that included GARDENVALE. Are you aware?
Well, we've received no correspondence or any letters from any association, but we have received, I believe, 8 letters of support from neighbors in the local area. And if there is a association, I would assume that these members would at least be a part of it.
Yeah, I recall that anytime anything came up on GARDENVALE and vicinity and south of Bloor, that the community was very vocal. And I think the conversation here has been more positive than negative.
I mean, I would agree. Seeing a lot of letters of support come in from the local residents is always lovely to see. I don't recall seeing a letter of objection for this application. So I do believe that the local citizens in the street and demographic are in support of this application, and they see no issues with the massing. I do understand that when the homeowner did his circulation and discussions with the residents, he brought the drawings with him as well, of course, and showed them the proposed massing as well and explained the variances. And no one has come forth and provided any complaints.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, since we're still into, since we've gone back to questions, I guess my question is, why does he want the dormers? I mean, other than architectural aesthetics, I mean, is that Any particular?
Well, the homeowner is just not too much of a fan of just a flat exposed roof, right? So providing these dormers helps bring more of a sense of a traditional architectural design to the facade. And it's something he quite loves. These windows are not operable. They're fake windows. They're aesthetic, right? They're not going to be able to bring light or in or anything. They're just simply decoration. And the size of these dormers as well in relation to the overall massing is quite minor. They're not large. They don't present a large source of massing. Perhaps because there's 3 of them. Maybe that's why the planning department is concerned. But again, the interior height of this attic space is 5'10", and if these dormers are to fit within this roof profile, they must be like 4 to 4.5 feet tall. So I believe that when you're looking at this massing from a street or even across the street from the dwelling across, they will look quite small. I do believe that perhaps the image that was used on the supporting documentation just is an enlarged view of it. But once this is constructed, I don't believe these dormers would present any sort of eyesore or present it as a 3rd-story structure.
Okay, thank you.
I will note that they have a letter of support from their immediate neighbor at number 46, and it looks like they have a letter of support from the neighbor immediately across from them as well. Just not number 50. I don't think I have a letter of support from number 50.
Yeah, for these aesthetics, it would be the one across the street that would be most affected, because if you're next door, you're not going to see it anyway. So,
Yeah, 49 is in support.
Yeah, okay. I think we understand the issue. It's a question of, is anyone ready for a motion?
I'll go for one. I'll move a motion for approval. I believe the application meets the 4 tests subject to the planning and the forestry conditions.
Correct. I believe that's what's been tabled.
Yeah, I concur with the planning memo.
I do need a seconder if we're going to move forward, yeah. Or
it was the first attempt.
If there's no seconder, that's another option. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? I'll second it. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion fails. Is there an alternate motion?
I'll take a stab at it. So, I mean, I'm quite satisfied with this application because I believe they have done their due diligence and spoken to the neighbors about it. I know they're form letters of support, but I think that's good enough for me. So I'm going to move for approval subject to, was there urban forestry?
Yes.
Subject to an urban forestry condition, whatever that might be. I don't have it in front of me.
Condition 2, private
Condition
tree.
2. Private tree, yes.
Okay, Ms. Alderson has put a motion to approve with one condition only.
Chair, I second that, and I just want to articulate the fact that I did give these dormer a lot of thought, and I also looked at the possibility of reducing them. One would really look really odd.
Yeah.
2 would look imbalanced. So at the end of the day, I felt that we're not here to design, but I didn't feel that placing those dormers was a real detraction, and I think it fits into that Thompson Orchard community. I think that's what it's called. I think it fits in the community. So I'm going to second the motion.
Okay.
With only the one condition, forestry.
Yeah, when you see it from that perspective, they're not that dominant, but okay. So there's a seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. It's approved without the planning condition.
Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry?
So,
I had that as 4-1.
3-2, 3-2. Okay, so we've got, yeah, I could have gone either way on that, but I'll stay with my original. Sorry, who did the, Dominic, okay. Got it.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, before we start, I just want to check in. There's a call-in user. The agent just logged out, so I'm going to see if this is the agent.
So we'll take a 10-minute break then? Okay.
Okay, we'll just be taking a short break. So I'm just gonna say there's a call-in user 647401. Can you please state your name and what item you're here for? Hello, call-in user 2647401. You are unmuted. Just wanted to make sure, see what item you're here for.
Hello.
Hi. Can you
Hi.
please state your name?
You said you state my name?
Yes.
Yeah, Suring Oser.
And which item are you here for?
619 Oxford Street.
That's
619 Oxford Street.
And you are the agent?
No, I'm just a neighbor. I just want to participate.
Is that your address or the item? I'm trying to figure out.
No, no, it's not my address. It's my neighbor. I'm just here to participate. Just want to go through. It's not my case at all.
Okay, so that item has already passed. I believe.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was just. So this is I guess Lex. I guess.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. So that.
Okay, then I'll leave the meeting.
Yes, the item was deferred. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No
Thanks,
problem.
guys.
Have a good day. Bye. Hi, Eric. Can you hear me? Hello, Eric. Eric Georgiou. Okay, Eric, if you could just please fix your mic before you go up for item 15. I will mark you present though. Linda Stein, can you hear me? Hello, Linda Stein.
Hello?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm just going to mic check, so I'm just going to check you in. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, can you hear me? Paul Desjardins. Again, Paul, can you hear me? Okay, Paul, just make sure that your mic's unmuted and connected. Allow any permissions. Just I'm gonna check you in. Just make sure your mic's ready when we call your name. Thank you. Okay, where's
Are we good? Yeah, okay.
Good to go.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. Thank you for indulging us for a little break. So item 15 is 175 Brentwood Road North. This is an application to permit a landscaping and parking deficiency for the as-built duplex and to maintain the existing structure. There are 6 variances being requested. I believe 1 has been removed, so we're now looking at 5. And planning is recommending refusal. Transportation has 6 conditions of approval in the event that we approve. We have an order to comply, and we have advisory comments from Metrolinx. Peter Mielchen, welcome.
Good morning, Is it on?
It's on now.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. You may recall this application from last year. I believe it was May. Since then, there have been significant changes made to the proposal, including as recently as about a week ago.
Peter, before we get into that, I believe planning was requesting a deferral. No, you were requesting a deferral.
Yes, so
and you now no longer want the deferral?
No.
Okay.
The reason we were asking for a deferral was an opportunity to deal with the encroachment agreement with transportation services.
And they want you to deal with
But
us
they
first.
said,
Okay.
get your variances first and then come back to us.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, the difference between last year's application and this year's application as it is before you now is the requested variances for side yard and rear yard soft landscaping deficiency have been rectified. So there will be compliance of soft landscaping in the side yard and soft landscaping in the rear yard. The remaining variances are the platform in the rear yard, the front stair encroachment, the driveway width, and the length and width of the parking spot within the attached garage. So I suggest to you that the 5 variances meet the tests under the official plan. It's fully consistent with what is permitted in this neighborhood for a range of residential development. This is a detached dwelling with an accessory suite in the basement. The objections which community planning provided to the committee by way of memo dated January 27th, I believe have been fully addressed by the removal of the soft yard landscaping variance for the rear yard. So there should be no further issue with what community planning was referring to. I believe the variances are consistent with the zoning bylaw. The original house, as constructed in the 1940s, has the same footprint that we're dealing with now. That house had the deficient rear yard, much smaller than is typical in the area. It had the side entrance facing Brentwood with the stairs encroaching into that side yard setback. So given the historic circumstances, I believe we've achieved consistency with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The rear platform, as I mentioned, is in a backyard which is significantly smaller than the bylaw allows, which is a historic condition. So it is not possible to comply with the construction of a deck or a platform in the rear yard, because there simply would be no room if you followed the zoning bylaw. The platform is 0.35 meters above grade. So it wouldn't even require a building permit under the OBC because of that characteristic. And because it is so low to the ground that 0.3 meter separation between the fence and the deck, even if it were to exist, it practically has no consequence because you're low to the ground, you're not imposing on on your neighbors. They don't see you. They don't hear you any more than they might otherwise hear you, and vice versa. So the variances, I believe, are minor. As I mentioned, the platform is low to the ground. It's in a substantially deficient sized rear yard. The front entrance is in exactly the same location as it's been historically, and there is no impact from these stairs on the community. The additional 0.48 meter driveway width leading to the garage is minor and likely imperceptible to a passerby, and it's actually consistent with the requirements for the width of a parking space at 3.2 meters. The variances for parking space length and width inside the garage are minor and impact no one other than the applicant. I believe the development is desirable for the area. There's been extensive renovation and addition to the house to make it an attractive addition to the community. The outstanding matters are related to the exterior of the dwelling, and the applicant has taken great care and effort to have an attractive and attractively landscaped home consistent with the character of the area. You have before you some additional materials which may no longer be as relevant given we've dropped the variance request for the rear yard landscaping. But you have a letter from Farid Gorbani, a professional engineer, stamped and signed, attesting to favorable drainage conditions in the rear yard. You have a letter from KCG, a professional engineer, transportation engineer.
Mr. Commissioner, I'm going to get you to wrap up.
Okay. Attesting there's no issues with transportation. And David Engelman, an RPP, also supporting the variances. And you might want to ask me questions about the transportation conditions.
That was going to be my first question. But before I go there, I just want to, and I should have done, going to ask for some forgiveness here. I should have done this before you did your presentation. I just wanted to concur with the panel members that we're okay with proceeding with this, given that the online system had noticed that the applicant was going to defer. We're now not deferring. Is everyone okay with that?
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment on that issue of, as far as I understand, Madam BSP will correct me if this is wrong, as far as the world was concerned, or at least those looking online, this matter was going to be deferred.
So the issue is, would there have been more deputants here, knowing that we were going to go forward?
Correct. With just some reliance on the expectation that there'd be a further date in the future. So that's one concern I have. My second concern is I see one letter of opposition from Desjardins, and do we know if that?
Yes, they are online. Yes.
Okay. That's my comment, is that concern about the telecasting, that there'd be a deferral today.
Okay, do we have any other residents online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we have three people online.
Okay.
And then one person in.
Okay, so we've got a good representation then. And we have in person, yeah. Okay, so everyone's comfortable with proceeding. Okay. All right. So now, yes.
If you want to ask me questions now or
we'll do that now. Yeah, while you're there, I'll save you going back and forth. So transportation has 6 conditions of approval. Well, what's your opinion on those conditions?
So in principle, we have no issue with the requested conditions. The applicant understands he needs to enter into an encroachment agreement if he wants to maintain the walkway and some of the landscaping and other features. The 2 conditions that we take some issue with are 3I and 5I. Both of these relate to making your approval conditional upon them removing all of the pavers for the parking area and documenting all of that as a condition of the approval. And that sounds okay, except, and I'm not a lawyer, so but it seems to me that this might be going a little bit too far by conditioning the variances to such an extent that when my client goes to transportation to seek an encroachment agreement, they'll say, we can't give you one because the committee said that you have to remove everything. There is a separate process for my client to apply to transportation services for an encroachment agreement. If they can't come to a resolution, he would have the right to appeal staff's refusal to community council. That is an entirely separate process from what you're dealing with today. Today we're under the Planning Act. The process related to encroachment agreements is under the Municipal Act. So all I'm saying is my client has already attempted to get an encroachment agreement. Transportation staff said wait for the variances to be dealt with. That's fine. Should this applicate, well, either way, my client has to go to transportation services and secure an encroachment agreement. And he understands that the entire risk is on him, because if he doesn't get what he wants, he has to comply or there will be enforcement action. I'm just asking that you do not condition an approval today to such an extent that would prevent him from exercising his rights under a different process, under a different act.
So the recommended conditions do not anticipate removing all of the pavers. It's just, it's clear. It says remove the excess pavers within the public boulevard, which is city land, beyond the approved driveway width, if the committee approves it, of 3.27 meters. So the encroachment agreement would be for the 3.27 meter wide driveway, because they're using pavers and not regular asphalt, I guess. And that's city land. So they want anything beyond the permitted driveway to be restored to landscaping, soft landscaping.
So that is the issue, that my client does intend on seeking some form of encroachment to have a wider parking area. He has provided
on the city boulevard?
On the city boulevard, yes. My client has provided the committee with a copy of his valid disabled parking permit. He requires additional space.
Okay.
And so he will make that argument with transportation services. If he's unsuccessful, he can appeal it to community council. If that's unsuccessful, he has no choice but to comply pretty promptly.
Okay, so specifically, which
I'm not sure that would make sense, because if you're only permitted, which is before the committee today, with a driveway width of 3.27 meters, would the excess parking on the city property fit entirely on city property? Because then you don't have permission on the subject lands to have a driveway wider than 3.27 meters.
So a portion of the vehicle would be parked within the right-of-way, because there simply isn't enough room from the front door, or from the garage door to the lot line to fit a standard car. So, but that's permitted, that's allowed. What I would suggest is that 3I, if the committee is so disposed, you could add the wording after restoring the boulevard to soft landscaping, or apply for an encroachment agreement with transportation services, et cetera, the same as is under 3.2.
So rather than removing, just add some wording.
Well, remove or apply for an encroachment agreement. So that retains my client's right to make that attempt.
Okay, so you're asking us to add some wording to the
to
proposed
3I, I think, and 5I, it would be the same thing below that. or apply for an encroachment agreement.
Okay, you know what? Let's see how this goes. If we get to approval, we'll come back to the minutia of how we deal with that. Fair?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we ask for other speakers? No. Okay, so if there's someone here in person to speak, I'll have him come up first.
Good morning. My name is Jeremy Peart. I'm a neighbor from 63 Princeton Road. This is my first time in council chamber, and so I'm just learning about the process. And I wanted to say that I really do like and appreciate the process per se. I have family members in a different municipality in Eastern Ontario, and they don't have any of these kinds of protections or process to ensure the right things are done. So I'm glad to be here. I'm strongly in favor of the application. I walk by the site all the time. I would say that the owners are doing a fantastic job essentially remediating the site aesthetically. They're making it look beautiful. The addition of the soft landscaping is something I'm looking forward to watching grow this spring and over the coming years. They're literally, planting trees in whose shade they will not sit. It's going to benefit the entire community. As relates to the parking issues that you're going to have to dive into later, I would strongly encourage that you see it the owner's way. The paving stones themselves are quite lovely. The whole site is lovely. You've heard about the special parking needs, and so I don't know all the details, but I do think there is a mobility issue. We're all getting older, and I would encourage you to be compassionate and pragmatic with the application. So again, very strongly in support, and representing the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away. Are any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify your address, is it 63 Princeton?
63 Princeton Road, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else in the chamber to speak to this issue?
No, there's not.
No? Okay, so if we can go to the people online then?
Yep. Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Hello, committee members. My name is Linda Stein. I'm at 173 Brentwood Road North. My husband and I live directly next door to the Salenkis on the south side.
Good morning.
So we are the closest house to the, good morning. We are the closest house to the Salenkis' rear yard. Our master bedroom overlooks their entire rear yard. We have no concerns or issues with the work they have done, and we want to express support for all the minor variances being requested today. Compared with the previous state of the property, we are pleased with the current water management efforts in place. This work was all completed nearly a year and a half ago, and we've experienced no water drainage issues since this work was completed, in spite of some extremely heavy rainstorms and the usual winter and spring snowmelt conditions. Just in regard to the driveway issue with transportation, I'll say that we remember when the previous owners extended the driveway, there was a very small old single car driveway, and we remember when they expanded it to fit the two vehicles working around the presence of the big utility pole right in the middle of the area. At that time, there were no complaints or objections at that time or later. And I know when the Salenkis purchased this property, the fact that there was a pre-existing two-car driveway was a part of their decision. So I hope that they can retain that two-car driveway, and that will the committee will approve today without the conditions that transportation has asked for. And the other issue I'll address specifically is the deck platform, 30 centimeters high, as has been discussed. It's really not high at all compared to most of the decks in the area, including ours, are either larger or taller. And this one seems quite low and quite reasonable, and especially given the somewhat limited mobility of elderly parents who will be with them at times, and also just personal disability of one of the family members that would give them just a one step into their side door, which seems appropriate and understandable. And finally, just for the record, this has, I guess, come up in the past, the entire neighborhood recently received culvert drainage work. And this was requested by neighbors, including yourselves, years before the Salinkis even purchased their property. So the culvert work has been a long time coming and had nothing to do with the Salinki renovation project. We are very happy that it has finally taken place, though. So those are my comments. We support all the work that they're doing, and I hope that the committee will see fit to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming there are no questions. Okay. Is there another speaker online?
Yes, I'll connect them now. Go ahead, Eric.
Thanks. This is Eric Georgie speaking. I'm at 172 Brentwood Road North. So I guess I'd be kitty corner to the Salinkis.
Good morning.
I'm short on time, so I'll keep it pretty quick. We looked at what the variances were. We were very comfortable with them. We think they're quite small and have zero concerns on them. I think the green space on the property is fantastic. They've planted new sod, new trees. I think it looks far better than it was. And I'd say lastly, I just think overall the house is quite tasteful. It looks great, and it's a net benefit to the neighborhood. So for those reasons, we support the application and the owners.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online?
Yes, I will connect them now. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm here. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, sir.
Committee. Thank you very much for having me speak for a few minutes. I'm going to speak to different issues than neighbors have to this point. So I'm going to speak in the context of the 4-point decision-making framework. Let's start with whether this is minor or not. So this is a long road to where we are today, and perhaps that deferral would have taken us this road even longer. We began with a design and a shopping of the neighborhood, and then presumably a building permit, and then construction, and then committee of adjustments and committee of adjustments over non-compliance. So if we're going to refer to the 2 points regarding compliance to the official plan or the bylaw, we've had a record of non-compliance in this building circumstance. And so we're here to, to permit, it seems, things which were done in plain knowledge. So I think that we have to pay attention to the journey and whether non-compliance should stop here in certain elements. So the next is whether this is desirable. The neighborhood has spoken to the attractiveness of what's gone on, and certainly it's not out of context in general terms, and the homeowner makes efforts to make their home nice. I agree with those. But the footprint isn't as was stated previously. The roof design heavily cantilevers over the former footprint, and it is multifaceted and collects water like the ROM, like the crystal at the ROM. And then that water is taken down multiple downspouts to goodness knows where. They enter into the ground, and it becomes a black box of drainage from our perspective thereafter. But hardscaping then is of zero value, or softscaping is perhaps of zero value on this property. So if we're talking about hardscaping, then perhaps hardscaping is even a greater concern on this land than we perceive. So I do not support a contravention of hardscaping provisions in whichever official plan or bylaw where that lands. This is risky. It's a risky corner. If you look at the neighborhood, the 4 properties and ours along West Rose, look at the roadway there. It is entirely hardscaping. It's a very large intersection from an asphalt point of view. So water is a big deal at this corner. So the applicant's impermeable, not blocks or whatever, it's impermeable. It's concrete, reinforced concrete, a layer of heating, plus the bricks, plus a coating, plus. So, and it's 2.5 times wider than really alignment with the garage would suggest is correct. So now then the complexity of this, we talk about a transportation report. Honestly, I didn't know about it, but it certainly sounds like I would agree with them in relation to the driveway. That's another complexity. And then something that adds to our hobby here in the Kingsway about how do we protect what's desirable in truly minor, conforming with zoning plan and conforming with official plans. So I object particularly to the driveway, and I do not accept that the city's green space is part of the property owner's calculation. And I think this has been not a good building process overall. We would like to get this to a resolution. What appears on the property is acceptable. Let's have it not spread risk onto our neighbors. So let's do some mitigation here today in our judgment and get this back in line. Thank you.
Thank you. So what would you propose?
Well, I think we're simply left with correcting the driveway. The neighbors to the side.
Okay, but what in your view would be a correction to the driveway?
The driveway should conform to the garage, as is how things generally are assessed, and add to the softscape in front of the home in its replacement.
Okay, so your position is that both the city portion and the private portion of the driveway should be only as wide as the bylaw permits, and the rest should be returned to soft landscaping. Is that your position?
Yes, that's a simple bit of more construction, fixing up.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify what it is that you're proposing.
I would, that would be my priority request.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members? No. Okay. Mr. Milchin, if you don't want to come up to do a rebuttal to the last deputant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just get to the last point that the deputant made about the driveway width. A parking space has to be 3.2 meters wide. So if we had a driveway that complied with the bylaw width, then we would need a variance for the size of the parking space. So one way or another, something has to give. So the driveway is proposed at 3.27, I believe, and the required width of a parking space is 3.2. So we comply with that part of the bylaw, but we need a variance to the driveway width. You have no complaints from any of the immediate neighbors about flooding or pooling of water or so on. There's extensive drainage that's been installed on the site, a French drain, sump pumps, and there's a significant amount of soft landscaping which will be added back to the private property in the side yard and the rear yard. And as I mentioned earlier, my client has a disability. He has a valid disabled parking permit. When they purchased the property, as you can see from the photos, much of the front yard or the side yard and the right-of-way was covered with impressed concrete. They removed that impressed concrete. What they put in place with permeable pavers was slightly smaller than what was there before. They understand that changes will have to be made to that, so they're removing the pavers from the side yard in front of that bay window and adjacent to the garage, so that deals with the side yard soft landscaping. They understand the need to separate the walkway from any driveway, and if you look at the submitted site plan, they actually do show a strip of landscaping between the walkway and the driveway area. And if transportation services want a wider strip of soft landscaping, I'm sure my client would be amenable to doing that as well as part of the conversations about any encroachment agreement. So I don't know what else to tell you, but I think removing the soft landscaping variances compared to what was before you last year makes a significant improvement to the site. The remaining variances are minor, have no impact on anyone. And the remaining issue, which is the width of any parking area within the right-of-way, whether my client secures an encroachment agreement with the city for that, or perhaps applies for an on-street disabled parking permit, which Etobicoke York does permit, but they do not permit parking permits in this area, but sometimes disabled parking permits for on-street are permitted. The preference would be to have that parking off the road and into the boulevard, which is the right-of-way. But I would ask you very respectfully to allow my client the ability to pursue encroachment agreements with transportation services through that process, and do not condition an approval, if you were to grant one, to such an extent that it precludes them from pursuing that avenue.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, actually, I've got some questions, maybe I'll go first. Just, I'm looking at the existing, or at the site plan, and so the paved walkway to the front stairs, that doesn't exist right now?
That exists. No, everything exists, except for the addition of soft landscaping. That will be done one way or another in the spring as soon as is feasible.
All of the paved areas, the driveway, the walkway, is it stamped concrete, or is it?
It is permeable pavers.
It is permeable pavers now.
Yes.
So the entire driveway is permeable pavers.
Yes, and previously it was impressed concrete when my clients purchased the property.
So the walkway portion as well is?
Yes. Everything is a uniform color design, etc.
Okay, and the walkway in the back is
also permeable pavers.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
And the hardscape that will be removed in the back is also permeable pavers.
Okay, got it.
So,
sorry.
So this is to legalize. So you want to delete number 6, reduce rear yard landscaping from 50% to 26%, which is being deleted now, right?
Yes.
6 is being removed.
It's being removed. So, but does that exist? Is that an existing?
No, it hasn't been completed yet. It will be completed one way or another. That work will be done as soon as is feasible in the spring. And the rear yard...
Is there a plan or anything showing what you're proposing then to do?
Grass. I believe it says on
but
one
is that reflected on your site plan?
Yeah.
There was a site plan that was submitted earlier this week, which indicates the patio adjacent to the platform as grass.
Do you have a date for that site plan?
That would have been submitted on Monday, so that would have been the 3rd.
Do we have that up?
We're just trying to see if we have that.
Yeah.
And The rear yard soft landscaping, once this work is done, will be 50.42%. So it will be in compliance with the bylaw.
I don't see a February 3rd, but I see it's called revised plans, January 31st. And it
Yeah,
show grass area, grass area.
I apologize. Yes, it would have been last week then.
It's the one that's revised plans in our package.
And you should have a letter from me, which I believe would have been the 31st, which has a snippet of the site plan attached with the soft landscaping areas shaded in green. So indicating that other than a walkway and the platform, the rest of the rear yard will be grass. There, yes, that's it.
So has city planning staff seen this? Because their letter is dated January 27th, and they're indicating that in that letter that they discussed this with the applicant in making changes, and in turn they refused to provide any revisions to the pave area, noting that permeable pavers are not a replacement for naturalized soft landscaping. So your plan is now dated January 31st, you're saying?
Yes, so it exceeds to the request of community planning.
But have they seen it?
I doubt that they have, but in any case, it's no longer a variance. So I understand what you're saying, sir. I'm just saying they asked for something. Initially, my client was not amenable to that, but upon further reflection, they have agreed. So there is no soft yard landscaping variance required in the rear yard.
Noted. Thank you.
Dominic?
Just on that point then, is that variance 6 that's being removed?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to go back to, maybe you can go back to Transportation Services Division comments with respect to conditions. If I understand you correctly, 3.1, you would it work if we were to suggest, we're not here to write the reports, but remove the excess pavers with boulevard, your driveway with shoes, restoring the boulevard. You disagree with that one, right? You feel that
I disagree with it being so declaratory that it makes it sound like if the variances were granted, you may not apply for an encroachment agreement for that.
Okay.
That is my concern. That's why I'm suggesting that for 3I as well as 5I, if that wording...
Alternatively, you apply to community council for an encroachment agreement. If that were to be added to 3.1, would that satisfy?
Yes, so Mr. Gully, I defer to you. You're the expert on transportation services.
Not on this one.
My understanding was that the process is you first deal with staff, and if you're not satisfied with staff, then you have the possibility to appeal to community council. So whatever that process is, whatever the order of that process is, my client will engage in that process and will have to live with whatever the outcome of it is. And if that means rectifying more rather than less, then they understand that and they will deal with it. But they want their day in court, so to speak, over the encroachment agreement.
So if we were to include 3.1, that sort of puts them on hold until such time as they get approval from community council for an encroachment agreement?
I defer to you. You know more. I've forgotten a lot of exactly how they do it, and they may have changed it, but I believe the process was you apply to transportation services for encroachment agreement. If you don't get the encroachment agreement or what you want out of it, then you have the ability to appeal that decision to community council, which is then, has the final say.
Right. And as far as 5.1 is 5.1 is concerned, it relates. Sorry, hold on. 5.1 is concerned. It relates to just the site plan being revised to reflect what they're recommending on the upper part of the recommendation. Yeah.
That's fine. That's a piece of paper. Just the concern, and again, as I said, I'm not a lawyer, but sort of the layperson's concern here is that conditions not be, that the variances, if approved, are not conditioned to such an extent that transportation staff then say, we can't give you an encroachment agreement for that because your variances that were awarded are conditional upon you not getting one.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but it's a concern. So that small change to wording would reassure us that there is a further avenue to pursue. And the issue is, my client purchased that property, seeing that expanse of patterned concrete and saying, that's great, it'll make it easy for us to park, and I have a mobility issue, and it will be easy for me to ingress and egress my vehicle. And that was naive, perhaps, but there was no order to comply, no notices, nothing. They had no reason to believe that anything on the property was anything other than legal and allowed. So now we're here.
It was in fact a pre-existing condition. I'm looking at a photograph dated September of 2022, and it is a pre-existing condition.
And then the other point is that they've changed the patterned concrete to permeable pavers, right?
Yeah, there was a pre-existing condition, but it was widened.
What was widened beyond what was pre-existing?
If you look at the
Okay.
Well, I would question whether it was actually widened or it was just straightened, but
ultimately,
in
what's
any
before
case,
us now is your site plan.
Yes.
And that's any approval that we may do, we're going to be tying it to that anyway. So that's what we should be looking at.
Yes. And I just want to add one other small item. Last summer, the ditches or swales and culverts in the area were finally repaired by the city. My client offered the city that they would remove a portion of the pavers abutting the roadway in order for new culverts to be installed under their driveway. And they understood that would be at their expense, not the city's expense. And Transportation Services said, no, thank you, we'll work around it. So Transportation Services knew it was there. Nothing was really done. Community Planning filed a complaint about it recently, and so here we are. But the bylaws are what the bylaws are, and we will deal with that process.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I want to take it into committee. No questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Thank you.
If anyone is thinking of doing a motion for approval, I guess the question is, do we want to modify the transportation condition? And I'm going to defer to Mr. Ghaly on that.
And I was going to ask staff if they would allow us, or if we were allowed to actually make changes to what Transportation Services recommends, add or subtract from it.
That's my question to our jurisdiction, to do that report, which is final from transportation.
We usually recommend that the committee impose conditions as recommended. A lot of work has gone into their review, and they're commenting on city property at this point, right? So it's their jurisdiction. on how they want that land managed.
So Chair, just a conversation with the other members. I'm amenable to changing 3.1 to read as written, or to add or apply for a
Encroachment agreement.
right-of-way encroachment agreement for that, and also 5.1 to also reflect on this addition.
A possible encroachment agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. If everyone understands that, is anyone ready for a motion? Yeah, understood. There are no other conditions being requested, and this would be as revised, given that variance 6 has now been removed. So just to help this along, I'm going to suggest that I believe what Mr. Gully is thinking of doing is adding the words to 3.1 to state or applying or apply for a right-of-way encroachment agreement. And that would be added to 3.1 and added to 5.1.
But you'd have to say apply and obtain.
So apply and obtain.
Well, you'd use
You
the
can
same.
apply, but not actually get the.
If you don't get it, then you got to remove it.
Yeah, you'd have to use the same wording as in 3.2, or apply for an encroachment agreement with transportation services, permits, enforcement, construction activities, services.
So, as far as the committee is concerned, I don't have any issues with the variances as requested with the revised application that eliminates variance number 6.
Okay.
So as far as the variance is concerned, I have no objections. I believe no objections. I believe that they do meet the requirements on the revised application. So I'm okay with that. And if anybody does make a motion, I just want that motion to reflect what I was suggesting for transportation services comments on 3.1 and 5.1.
Well, I'll just make a comment to pick up on Madam DST's comment, is that the wording, if it were to be duplicated in 3.3 small I from 3 small II, reads or apply for an encroachment agreement, but does not include the wording and obtain.
To apply and obtain an encroachment agreement.
Yeah.
And then they have the other option, if they don't, to go to community council. So Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no other conversation amongst us, unless someone else wants to.
No one else wants to.
Nobody wants to? Okay, no problem. Chair, with respect to the application for 175 Brentwood Road North, I believe that the revised application eliminating variance number 6 doesn't meet the intended purpose of the official plan zoning bylaw and the tests under the Act. As far as conditions are concerned, I do want to apply transportation planning conditions with a change.
The modification.
With a modification to 3.1 to read it and or apply to transportation services to obtain a road right-of-way encroachment on the road for 3-1, and for 5-1, I don't have it in front of me now.
It would be the same.
Similarly reflecting the approval of transportation service of an encroachment agreement.
Phil,
That's my motion, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Phil, are you clear on that one, or you're good? You're good, okay. So we have
So it would say restoring the boulevard to soft landscaping and/or apply to transportation services for and obtain a road right-of-way encroachment agreement.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a split decision. I think it's 4-1. You're opposed? Yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Approval.
What a road.
Okay, item 16, I think we're going to have to ask Ms. Popovic to leave. Okay, please stay. Okay, so item 16 is 60 Bellman Avenue. This is an application to maintain the existing driveway. There are 2 variances being requested. And speakers. Paul Ronan.
Yes.
Online?
Yeah, Paul Ronan here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm the owner at 60 Bellman, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good morning, thank you. Let me just find the item. 15, 16. Any questions from staff? No, okay.
I have one question,
Hold
and
on.
that is there any permeable hard scaping? I'm looking at the photos and I just can't tell. What's the opportunity for drainage? Mr. Agent.
Well, we've got the soft scaping there, and we've got drainage, out, towards the road. But the actual surface itself is asphalt.
Asphalt, yeah.
Thank you.
And half of the laneway
Okay,
drains back to the house.
Sorry,
Sorry.
there's one speaker.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
No? Okay, so, and I'm assuming there's no other speakers on this item?
That is correct.
Perfect. Let's take it into committee then. Any discussion or?
I'll move a motion. I believe the application, move a motion for approval, meets the 4 tests, as there is also no conditions. So it's fairly straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
I'm going to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Could we just get the reason for your conflict for the next item? Thank you.
Okay, item 17 is 24 Golf Crescent Road. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variances being requested. Planning has provided us with a condition of approval. Forestry is requesting conditions 1 and 2. There are 6 letters of support. There is also a letter of objection. And I believe that's all we have. Marco is our agent online.
Yes, good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marco Razzolini from Sakura Design, Inc., 94 Lakeshore Road East, Unit 201, Mississauga.
Thank you. Not sure if we need a full presentation. I think we understand, but I do have some questions, and if you're open to us just doing questions.
Sure, we can jump to questions.
Okay, I believe the only objection is from the neighbor to the rear. And I believe their main issue is the height. And their issue is the height and the closeness to their property. You're not requesting any rear yard setback, so I don't believe that's a valid concern. So the other issue is the height. And I do have a question around the height, and I do have a concern around the height. You've provided some statistics which show similar, but I don't think you've provided an example of a height equal to or greater than what you're asking for. Can you comment on
Yeah,
that?
and maybe I can explain the height variance in a bit more detail. So the zone regulates the building height in two ways. The first is for flat roof height, where the maximum is 6.5 meters, and then the second is for building height, where the maximum is 9.5 meters if you had a house with a sloped roof.
We do understand that.
You're right. Okay, so I'm just trying to provide context. The variance that we're requesting is for flat roof height because we exceed the 50% flat roof percentage area. We're at 63%. The maximum for it to be considered peak roof would be 50%. The max building height for a peak roofed house, slope roof house, which visually this house will appear as such, is 9.5 meters. So the requested increase really is only 1.5, 15 centimeters essentially greater than the maximum for a peak roof height.
Yeah,
It's really
I
a
totally
technical variance in
get that, but then it would have been helpful for you to provide us examples of peak roof heights in that neighborhood if you're going to try to argue that you're a peak roof, which you're actually not because you do exceed the 50%. And when you look at your own statistics are actually a good argument for not approving it. Because what you're proposing, 9.75, 8.61 was refused, and 8.77 is the highest approved.
Right, and I think those are probably missing a bit of context.
So give us a context.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up to see, because we compiled research for peaked roof as well. I think that was maybe missing from the report.
You know, and I would argue that peak roof is very different than what you're proposing because a peak roof will not have the same massing impact.
The massing could be almost essentially the exact same, and the way that people often get around this is by adding a minor slope to the central part of the roof, right? Typically people have the higher pitch at the front, they have the higher pitch at the back, and then they'll slope down a small part in the center just to get around this variance. So we're trying to just simplify the roof design. Oftentimes that complicates construction. It doesn't look great, and really there's no net gain for the neighbors. Doesn't change shadow impacts, doesn't change the massing at all. It just technically gets around the variance. We do have building height examples for FSI. I can list off a few if that would be helpful. 153 Perry Crescent, which is another one that was approved with GFA, had a slope roof height of 9.58. 7 Bywood, 9.74. That's pretty consistent with what we're asking for. 10 Bywood, 9.86. There are others. I'm not
These
sure
are
the
all
proximity, but Byford Drive, 9.89.
And these are all sloped roofs, right?
Sloped roofs,
Yep.
yes. 7 Bywood is a very similar roof design as what we're proposing, where they slope down the center part of the roof again, just to get around that technical.
And
part
what's
of
the height there?
variance. That one was approved with 9.74.
Okay.
Planning also agrees with our sentiment that the house is going to be viewed as a sloped roof house.
Yeah, I think
If it was, I think
planning's concern was the way it presented from the street, and I'm just trying to say that it's not just a street view that's going to be evident. But fair enough. Okay, does anyone else have questions? No? Okay, thank you. Take it into committee then? Or, there's no one else to speak to this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No, okay. So if we're going to have some discussion, I think overall, I don't have a big issue with this, other than I do have a bit of an issue around the height, but I leave it up to other members.
Yeah.
Only one letter of complaint.
So with that, I'd like to move a motion for approval. I do believe it meets the 4 tests subject to the planning and forestry conditions.
I'll second that motion.
Sorry, all in favor? Okay, that's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to an end for the morning session.